Hello and thank you for watching. My name is Niamh Balla and I am the project coordinator on the Getty Connecting Art Histories initiative, which is run by Professor Anthony Eastman out of the Courtauld Institute of Art here at Somerset House.
So the Getty approached me about doing this project, and it just seemed the most fantastic opportunity based on all the years of research I've done in eastern Turkey and the Caucasus, where it's become so apparent to me about the way the modern frontiers have divided up the art history of the region in the way that never happened in the medieval world, and try to recreate what it must have been like when people were flowing across that region without any of the divides that hamper art history and tourism and everything today.
The project, which has been so generously funded by the Getty Foundation, is essentially a travelling research programme which has allowed a talented group of early career researchers who are interested in the medieval art and culture of the eastern frontier between Christianity and Islam to travel together to the regions which were once eastern Anatolia and the Caucasus, and also to Jerusalem. The collision of many empires, cultures, ethnicities and religions in this region during the 13th and 14th centuries created complex and diverse monuments and works of art, many of which used a shared visual language. One of the main aims of the project has been to bring together emerging scholars from the modern nation states that now occupy the region, especially from Turkey, Georgia, Armenia and Iran.
I'm Hadi Safaipur. Right now I'm a faculty member of Faculty of Architecture and Urban Design at Tehran's National University, which is called Shahid Beheshti University.
My name is Polina Ivanova. I'm a doctoral student at Harvard University in the Department of History. And I'm working on history of medieval Anatolia, looking at history of migration of people from Armenia and Iran into what used to be the Byzantine Empire, and my time frame is 11th to 13th century, which very much is the time frame of our project.
I'm Sima Meziridu and I'm a PhD student at University of Mainz, and I'm currently fellow PhD at Leibniz Institute for European Studies in Mainz. And my research is about late Byzantine Trebizond and early Ottoman Trebizond. I'm working on the transition from Byzantine to Ottoman rule after 1461.
My name is Nato Chetishvili. I'm a PhD student at Tbilisi State Academy of Art, and my dissertation is about liturgical planning of medieval Georgian cathedrals.
My name is Gohar Grigoria. I'm a PhD student at the University of Freiburg in Switzerland in the Department of Medieval Art History.
In my mind, what's really unique about this project is the ability to travel in a large group, which is also one of the difficulties of this project.
The whole sense was crossing frontiers. I mean, having the chance of visiting different monuments with different scholars from different nationalities and different perspectives allowed us and enabled us to see these monuments from different points of view, from different perspectives. And it was kind of crossing your own perspective, crossing your own, way of thinking about them, culturally, regionally.
The people with very, very different interests who, for one reason or another, would like to come and see the same monuments. So what we get as a result is an ability to be in the same place with people who ask very different questions. To give you an example, we come to an Armenian church, and there's a person who's interested in the liturgy, who's interested in how the space inside the church is used. And we learn from her and for him. There's someone else who's interested in vaulting and how vaulting in this particular church relates to history of vaulting in Iran. there's a person who is interested, who's not at all interested in the church itself, but is interested perhaps in the history of the villages, of the countryside that used to be around this monastery. And so that's again another perspective. So in my mind, this is really the most rewarding part of this project.
Well, the Getty Crossing Frontiers project is based on a very good, inspiring ideas, and bringing together all these scholars from different disciplinary backgrounds. Creates a very good combination that leads to fruitful and constructive discussions, and therefore this discussion leads to new possibilities, new ideas of future projects, and also sets, in my opinion, a new course of research concerning this multicultural, let's say, monuments.
This project helped me to fill the gap in my knowledge in Seljuk and Armenian art and architecture, and it significantly contributed to my professional advance. Each day we examined 3 or 4 sites, very interesting sites, and every time it was something new.
The reason why these monuments are being researched together as a group within the framework of the Getty Connecting Art History project is the fact that usually they're not. That each one of these monuments belongs to historiographical tradition, which has its own methods and its own narratives. Let's say we have a Turkish historiographical tradition on the Turkish side of our project. We have an Armenian historiographical tradition on the Armenian side of our project. And likewise for Georgia. And not only because of the differences of academic approaches, but frankly also because most of the literature is written in languages which are, it's very rare for a historian of medieval Turkish architecture to also know Armenian and vice versa. These monuments end up not only on different sides of geographical borders, political borders, but also on different sides of academic frontier for reasons which are not at all, that have nothing to do with history of these monuments.
Well, I think transculturality and transregionality are the main essence and nature of this project. And to me, the monument that reflects these concepts and features, well, I would say in terms of a land, in terms of a more extended complex, the Ani is the one.
Well, the monument that sums up the nature of this project, of the Getty Crossing Frontiers project, in my opinion, is the archaeological site of Ani.
Say that we saw their Armenian church, Georgian church, we saw Manuche mosque functions, we saw shops, residential complex, we saw mosque, religious buildings, secular buildings, we saw palace. So I think Ani was something very unique. And in terms of the region also, it was a land that was separated by the river and actually divided the whole Ani and that historic region to the Turkish part and Armenian part.
Which today is deserted, which today is a monument to its own past, and it stands on this very dramatic slope, a very steep bank of a river. When you stand there, not only you observe this medieval city, but you also observe today's border between Armenia and Turkey, and you see Armenia on the other side of the river, and you see a very beautiful and a very telling image of a ruined bridge that once united the two sides, but is no longer there.
Such a huge historical background with all these transitional phases from one rule to another. So this fluid situation of Ani is what represents us historians and art historians, the difficulties that we face with and the complexity of the monuments.
So for me, one of the most impressive monuments in the city was the Cathedral of Ani, which wasn't a huge structure as I would always imagine before, but it was rather a compact but an elegant church which was perfectly situated so that the viewer can see it and its dome, which no more exists, from different parts of the city.
Well, the Getty Crossing Frontiers project has an impact on my research because as a historian, I mainly deal with written sources, which are not that many. And also when you deal with the lack of archaeological material, you don't have much to work with. But in this project, it's the methodology that I was taught during our discussion that it's the most important thing. Therefore, the monuments themselves, with all these shifts that they have been through, the adulterations and the effects that the historical events had on them, they can tell a lot. They can tell their history throughout this. Like if you take off the layers of each historical period, you can read the monument and its history. And this
one very important takeaway for me from the Getty project was really developing a visual vocabulary and architectural vocabulary that goes beyond just my knowledge. I studied medieval Anatolia, so my knowledge was very much limited to the monuments of Turkey. And today I understand that there is a visual vocabulary that is shared by a very large number of monuments across frontiers, be it in Turkey, be it in Armenia, and be it in other countries of the region which we haven't visited.
So the outcome so far, we're halfway through the project now, has just been wonderful in terms of the number of people we've been able to attract onto the project from all across the region, with lots of different backgrounds out of art history and liturgical studies, and from Christian and Islamic studies as well, just to see the way everyone interacts and getting different reactions to the buildings and the sites we've been visiting. So all the things I'm used to thinking about have been challenged, and we've come up with some really exciting new ways of discussing the monuments. So I think everyone on the project, and me especially, we're enormously grateful to the Getty for supporting this project in such a generous way, and the outcomes, I think, from everyone have been universally positive.